Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you are brand new here, welcome, and if you are returning, welcome back. My name is Crystal and I am a full-time reseller on sites like eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari, and it is Vlogmas. So welcome to Vlogmas. If you are brand new here and you have not already subscribed, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. And also, if you like these videos, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Today's video is a very popular topic among the reseller community, and I just wanted to do a video on my take on going full-time. So how do you know if you're ready to go full-time? What do you need to do to prepare to go full-time? These are topics that we're going to talk about today, so if you're interested in that, then stay tuned. So I want to start out this video by saying I apologize greatly for not putting out a video yesterday. We were having such a good run. This is Vlogmas day 19 and I skipped day 18. I didn't have a video planned and I didn't want to put out a rushed video that was just kind of garbage. I didn't have the time yesterday to do it and it was just poor planning on my part, so I do apologize. I was really hoping to keep the streak alive through December, but sometimes you fail and you just got to get back up and keep going. So we're going to continue on all the way until I think the 23rd, because my Christmas festivities start around then, and so I'm not going to have time to be putting out videos on the 24th or the 25th. And also, I don't really know how many people are going to be wanting to watch videos on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So anyway, we're going to keep this running until the 23rd, and every day I'm going to put out a video from now until then at 7 p.m. Central Time. And I do apologize if you were looking forward to yesterday's video. I am sorry. I'm new to YouTube, so I don't even know how to put up those little caption things that say like no video today or whatever, because I did try to figure it out, but again, I didn't have that much time yesterday and I couldn't find it. It wasn't readily available for me, so I don't know. Anyway, I am sorry about that. Okay, today's topic. It's like one of those topics in the reseller community that I feel like a lot of people are constantly thinking about, and there are tons of people talking about it, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on what I think. I did recently just go full-time. If you don't already know that, I am currently a full-time reseller. I went full-time in September. It is now December, so I've only been full-time for about 2 or 3 months, and I am going to basically tell you what I think is necessary for you to have in place before you make that transition. And also, first we're going to talk about the fun part. So like, when is it time to go full-time? Like, when is it like, okay, my job is not getting as much of my focus, or this is taking over my house, or whatever. So let's talk about that first. So I think for me, I knew it was time to go full-time when mentally I had kind of checked out of my full-time job. It wasn't rewarding to me anymore. I was very kind of down. I was constantly thinking about Poshmark and eBay, and I was like annoyed that I had to be at my job because it was taking away time that I could be putting into my reselling business, and I knew I would be able to make more money. And so it was like a mental shift for me where I was just like, I need to do this. Now, I do want to preface by saying I had planned on going full-time for over a year before I did it. So I did put some things in place to make sure that I wasn't going to financially like be homeless, and also I wasn't going to fall flat on my face if I had a couple bad months, which is a good thing to do because I picked the wrong time to go full-time. Like, let's just say that. If you are a clothing reseller, I think it is very important to know the market and to know when clothing resellers really shine, like what is your big money-making time of the year and which times of the year is it slower. And so I thought I knew, but I didn't really pay attention. I was like, oh, Q4 would be great time to go full-time in reselling. And if I was selling toys or electronics or something like that, that would have been accurate. But because I'm selling used clothing, and unfortunately right now the world is not adapted to giving secondhand gifts, the market really slows down at this time of year. So I think that that's something to keep in the back of your mind if you do decide to go full-time. What time of the year is the best time for you to go? So also, if you live in like a climate where it snows a lot and you're not able to get out as frequently to get inventory, that's something that you need to think about too, because how are you infusing your stores with new inventory? Are you planning on buying pallets? Are you planning on buying wholesale? Are you planning on sourcing online? Are you planning on going to the thrift stores? And if so, is that going to be possible in your area? Now, that's not something that I have to deal with too much because we don't get snow here in Tennessee, but I know my family back home in Rhode Island, they just got a foot of snow. So people can't really leave and some things are closed down and stuff like that. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you're thinking about going full-time. Where's your inventory going to come from? Okay, so the really like major things I think you need to have in place before you decide to go full-time. So if you're already thinking about it, if it's taking up most of your time, if your inventory is starting to take over your house and you're like, I need to spend more time on this, and you just don't have any more time, I think it's time to start thinking about going full-time. Now, I don't think that that's the only reason, like, oh, your inventory is taking over your house, that's it, quit your job. I do not think that's a good idea. I don't think that you should ever just quit your job emotionally. Like, if you have a bad day and you're just like, I'm done with this, I'm gonna quit. Don't do that. Don't just quit because you really want to sell full-time. You need to really have things in place to set yourself up for success, because what's going to happen if you don't is you're going to come home full-time, and yes, you may be successful, but it's going to be a lot harder for you to transition from a paycheck every single week or bi-weekly or monthly, however you get paid, into this job where you're going to have to figure out how to pay yourself and you don't really know where the money is coming from. It's going to be a lot harder if you don't have these things in place. So let's talk about what I'm talking about. The first thing that I think is vitally important in life in general, not just in reselling, but especially if you're going to transition. It wouldn't be a crystal video if I didn't at least once mess up a word, like a word was just gone, you know? So anyway, if you're planning on transitioning to full-time, I think that savings is really a big, big thing. I think that you should have 3 months minimum of bills. So figure out what you're if you're not already on a budget, get on a budget. Figure out where your money is going and figure out how much minimum it takes to run your household. Water, electric, rent, insurance, cell phone, internet, all of the things that you have, make sure you write them down. And if they fluctuate a little, take the highest you've ever paid for that month and just budget that. That way you have more money if you need it. And if you don't, then you just have like a little bit of extra money that month. So make sure you know what it costs to run your household. And everybody's household is different, so I cannot give you what that would be. My rent or my mortgage might be different than your rent. My water bill is going to be higher or lower than yours, etc. So really just figure out what your bills are if you don't already know. That way you know what the goal is. I need to make a minimum of X amount of dollars. Then times that by 3 and make sure that you have that amount of money in your savings. Now obviously you don't want to lean on that if you don't have to, but you want to have it just in case, because if things are going south and it's not going the way that you thought it was going to go, at least you have that to fall back on. And once you're in like a month and a half to that savings, if you only have 3 months, maybe it's time to start figuring something else out, right? But it gives you that buffer so that you're not homeless or starving. And I think that that's really, really important. Now, I would recommend 6 months just because I'm an overachiever, I feel like. But if you are like really just checked out and you want to go, 3 months might be okay. You're just going to have to be very frugal about it. So a minimum of 3 months for savings for your own personal use. Now, I also think that you should have some savings, an arbitrary amount, 2 or 3 months of money that you're going to put into your business. Because I think a lot of times what people don't think about is if you're a part-time reseller, now this is not everybody, but this is my experience, okay? If I was listing as a part-time reseller 5 items a day, Monday through Friday, so 25 items. Now, if I'm going to go full-time, I'm obviously going to want to increase that. Now I'm doing 10 to 15 listings. So let's just say 10. So now you're doubling your efforts and your inventory. So I'm listing 10 items a day, Monday through Friday. Now I need 50 items to list. which is great. I have the time to list it, I have the time to source it, but I need to source it. And so at the beginning of my journey, I was really struggling with finding that much inventory to list. I've since kind of done some things to make sure that I've got that covered, but you need to make sure that you have enough money in your business account to put out more money to buy more inventory, right? Because you can go to the store and it may be a plethora of inventory, but if you don't have the money to buy it, then you're kind of SOL, right? So you need to have that money as well to make up for the fact that you're going to be buying in excess of inventory to list, because now you're full time. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I've spent plenty of time on savings. Next thing, we're not gonna camp here. We're just gonna talk about it really briefly and move on. You need to figure out where your health insurance is coming from. If you are single, you need to look at how you're gonna get self-employment health insurance, something like that. If you're married and your spouse is carrying your insurance, you don't have to worry about that, but just make sure that you know where your health insurance is coming from, because it's a very bad idea to not have health insurance at all. Also, I think they're still charging if you don't have health insurance, but I could be wrong. I don't really follow politics, but I know that was a thing a little while ago. I don't know if it's still a thing now. But anyway, so make sure you know where your health insurance is coming from. And also, if you are going to self-insure or whatever, you're going to find insurance in like the health insurance marketplace or whatever, put that into your budget, because what you're paying at your job right now is going to be much, much lower than the premium that you're going to have to pay for health insurance when you're covering yourself. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Just make sure that you do your research on that so that you know how much money you're going to need to put into health insurance so you're not blindsided by that. Okay. Next thing, I kind of already touched on this, but I'm going to touch on it a little bit more. You need to know your numbers. So obviously you need to know what it costs to run your household. You also need to know what your average sale price is. And that way you can figure out, okay, if I need to make $1,000 a month, I'm just making this up. If I need to make $1,000 a month, that means I need to make X amount of dollars a day, which means I need to sell X amount of items. If your average sale price is $20 and your goal is to make $100 a day, obviously you're gonna have to sell 5 items. So then you're gonna need to know what your sell-through rate is, which your sell-through rate is just how many items you're listing versus how many items you're selling. So if my sell-through rate is 50%, which is high, but let's say it is, and I'm listing 10 items a day, I theoretically would be selling 5 items a day. 5 items a day at my average sale price of $20 would give me my $100 goal that I need to meet for the day, theoretically. Now, obviously, it doesn't always go like that, but it's a good way to kind of project for the month so that you can put in the amount of work you need to put in order to reach the financial goal that you have. If you don't know your numbers, it's going to be very, very hard to predict how much money you're going to make for the month. So I'd say dig in, do your research, figure out how to figure out your average sale price and your sell-through rate. Get on YouTube. There's a ton of videos about this stuff. I'm not going to camp here for too much longer, but really just dig in and know your numbers so that you're not blindsided by any of that. Okay, the next tip is get a tax professional, at least for your first year full-time. Make sure that you're finding a tax professional that is willing to teach you. So I use Dave Ramsey ELP program, and it's just basically like a program where he recommends these people because they're known to be teachers. So what I'm looking for in a tax person is I need someone to explain it to me, explain what I need to do throughout the year so that at the end of the year when I come to them for my taxes, they're not like, oh God, I've got to go through 6 hours of stuff. Like I know what my mileage is. I know what I'm spending, what my losses are. I know what my numbers are for my gross numbers and my net numbers and all of that, whatever they need you to do. And you need to talk to somebody face to face or over the phone or whatever so that you have all that information, because taxes are very important. And if you mess up on your taxes and then you get audited, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I can't even stress enough, get a professional tax person. Don't listen to somebody on the internet who's giving you information. That includes me. I'm not going to give you any tax information. I don't know enough about taxes. I'm not a CPA. I'm not going to give that information because it you may take it as advice, and that's not what we're doing here. My advice is go get a professional. So make sure that you know who's doing your taxes, and make sure you're putting money away so that you have money for when tax time comes around, because when you are self-employed, the taxes are not coming out of your paycheck anymore. So you are going to have to pay in. So you need to be prepared to do that at the end of the year. Okay. Next thing, we are going to camp here for a little bit. I think that it is important to know yourself and know your own motivation. So are you a person that's a self-starter? Are you going to end up being home and get distracted by dishes and laundry or feeding your dogs or watching your kids or whatever it is? Or do you have the mental capacity to kind of box in one thing at a time and focus your energy on reselling for whatever time you've allotted it for? Do you have the motivation to do that every single day consistently? And I think that it's important to test it out. So I'll give you an example. When I used to work a full-time job, I had a lot of vacation time. So I would take a week or two off and dedicate it to reselling as if I was a full-time reseller, so that I could get kind of a gauge of what my days would look like and how my motivation would be. 3 days into my vacation, was I still coming in with the same amount of energy and focus and drive to do this job as I was on day one? And you could be a super self-starter and you're like, this is no problem for me, I know I'm not going to have an issue with this. Great. If you are unsure though, you need to test it, because if you quit your job and then you get home and you're not a self-starter and you're spending more time doing other things and you're not able to really schedule your time out and dedicate the time that you need to dedicate to reselling, it's going to be very difficult for you to see results if you're not putting in the effort. And I am personally guilty of this, thinking that I'm way more of a self-starter than I am. So there are ways around it, and that's not going to be an end-all be-all. If you're not a self-starter, it's not like I'm saying don't go full-time. What I'm saying is find resources to help improve that area of your life so that when you do this, you're successful. Because really what you want to do is set yourself up to be as successful as possible. Now, you're going to have to do the work, but doing the back end work before you make that leap is going to be much more beneficial to you than trying to figure it out while also trying to put in all this energy into reselling, if that makes any sense. So anyway, I hope that that was a little cohesive for you. The last thing that I want to talk about is something that I personally struggle with, and I don't think I paid enough attention to before I went full-time. Now, I don't think that it would have deterred me from going full-time. I just think it would have been helpful to have the knowledge before I went into it. And I know that people talk about this a lot, so you may have already heard it, but I think knowing your own personality is really important when you're thinking about going full-time. So, for instance, I would classify myself as an introverted extrovert. I need to talk to people on a regular basis, but too many people is overwhelming and I don't want to be there. And so that's a very interesting personality to have, because people, when you're talking to people constantly, they think, oh wow, this person's extroverted, they wouldn't mind being in this group setting or whatever, when in reality I do have a problem with that. So I really like one-on-one conversations, and having a full-time job when you're working with, one or two coworkers, it fulfills that need of having to talk to somebody and kind of have that like companionship, where when you're home you have nobody, or depending on what your living situation is. But so for me, that was a very hard transition, because I'm used to having a coworker that I'm talking to and laughing with and cutting up with or whatever, all while still getting my job done. So my siblings are great. They call me all of the time, and I'm constantly on the phone with my sisters, and so I do have that interaction with people. But the problem that I'm having is that I can no longer multitask when I'm doing that. So if I'm on the phone with somebody, my phone is where I do the majority of my stuff. So whether I'm filming YouTube videos or I'm photographing, listing, most of that stuff is done on my phone. And so I can't be on my phone and do that at the same time. And I mean, there are ways around that, and I'm still learning on however that works. But basically, what I'm running into right now is if I am getting the social interaction, I'm not getting my job done, and vice versa. If I'm getting my job done, I'm not getting the social interaction. So that's very different from being in a building, in a place of work, where people are doing the same job as you and you're both working towards whatever goal it is for that job, all while still being able to have a conversation. And I hope that that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but anyway, there are things that help. So getting on YouTube has really helped me. I get to talk to the camera a lot, so it fulfills my need of talking, but I don't really get that interaction back. And also, it's still not me being productive while I'm talking, if that makes sense. So I think knowing what your personality is and what you need to be happy and fulfilled is really important. So if you're an introverted introvert and it does not bother you at all if you see another person for the rest of your life, then this might be a great job for you. But if you are more like me, more introverted, extroverted, or if you're just straight extroverted, this is going to be very difficult. There are ways around it though. I mean, when I go to the bins, I do have a couple people that I talk to while we're digging, and so that's helpful. I have had some friends come with me when I'm thrifting, and I do get some social interaction that way. So there is definitely things that you can do to offset that. I just think it's important to know that this job is mostly just you, and so you need to be mentally prepared to work by yourself for long periods of time without any social interaction. And if that is a deal breaker for you, that's okay. You just need to know so that you're not blindsided by it. So really this whole video is about you not being blindsided by any of the stuff that comes along with full-time reselling. Now, there are many, many things that are pros of full-time reselling, right? Who doesn't want to be their own boss? The thing is though, is you need to be a boss. You need to make sure that you're being a good boss to yourself and making sure that you're showing up for the time slots that you said you were going to. And I heard this on a podcast, I think it was the Rise podcast. You need to make sure that you're keeping the promises you make to yourself. So it's very easy to keep promises to other people, but when you say you're going to do something, you need to make sure that you're also keeping that promise to yourself. And that's going to help you be super successful in reselling. Anyway, that is my 2 cents on going full-time. I think that it is a great thing to do. I think it's a great way to make income. All of that, I think that being an entrepreneur and owning your own business and all of that is absolutely fantastic. And I think that if you want to do it, you totally should. I just also think that you need to have all the information that you can so that you know what you're getting into. And that way you can be as successful as you're going to be with all of your information. So anyway, I hope that that video was helpful. And if you guys liked it, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you think I missed anything, if you think I'm wrong about anything, or if you're planning on going reselling. Was this helpful? Full-time reselling. If you are just part-time and you think you're always going to be part-time, that's okay too. Leave me a comment and let me know. I want to have a discussion with you guys about this topic because I think that it is a more discussed topic in the reselling community, and I think that that is important that we continue to have this conversation. So until tomorrow, guys, I will see you on the next one. Bye.